Hey everyone, well it's -6 outside and it's pretty well -5 inside. So I figured it would be a good time to talk about how I deal with cold in my little blacksmith shop here. So first of all, my shop is barely insulated. I think only a third of the walls are insulated. The roof is not insulated and it's quite drafty. Just to show you the door and the gaps around the door. Yeah, it's quite drafty. So I don't have like a heater or a wood stove in here. My main heat source in here is the forge. And normally when I walk in, first thing I do is light up that forge. So let's get that going, get some heat in here. So the first way I keep warm in here is keeping myself warm, and that's with layers. So I'll have a jacket, sweater, t-shirt, all that good stuff. If you're used to the cold, you know how to layer. Good boots. One thing I will do is if I'm working all day, when I have lunch, I will actually change like my socks and my t-shirt just in case if I do sweat in it. It makes a huge difference putting on that dry stuff before coming out for the afternoon. So also keep yourself hydrated. Warm drinks, coffee, hot chocolate, and also keeping the carbs up. That makes a huge difference. You know, if you're carbing up before coming out, you're gonna have that extra energy inside you to keep you warm. And yeah, with the layers, really helps. Once you start getting warm up, you take off your jacket. And there's been times where it's been -10, 15 outside. Inside, I can get it up to 10 degrees on the plus side. So I'm just working in like a regular sweater, long sleeve shirt, and jeans, and that's pretty well it. So yeah, as you get warm, you take off layers. If you start getting cold, put back layers on. Yeah, you guys know all the cold weather layer stuff, right? Yeah. Okay, now with gloves, I know there's a huge debate in the blacksmith community about wearing gloves, not wearing gloves. I'm not getting into it. Basically with me, my tong hand, when the tongs are cold, I wear a glove. Just a regular work glove, lined. Yeah, that's how I do it. You do you. So now that we got you straightened out, how about your tools? Now, my anvil, I will preheat anytime it's below 5 degrees Celsius. The main reason is working on a cold anvil, it is miserable. The anvil will just suck the heat out of any piece that you're working on. So I try to preheat my anvil anytime it's below 5 degrees. And how I preheat it is I have some plates that are 3/8 thick. And I will just heat them up to a dull orange and just place it on top. Now, I'm not worried about ruining my temper on my anvil face with this. That's a big chunk of steel. It's very unlikely that you're going to ruin your temper on the top of your anvil. I've been doing this for years and I've never noticed a difference. Another reason why you want to preheat your anvil, and I don't know how much of this is true, but I have heard that if you're wailing away on a frozen anvil, you do have a possibility of cracking the anvil. Now, my first anvil, actually, the back end was cracked off of it. Don't know how that happened. That was from a previous owner. But, you know, with anvils not being the cheapest thing, especially an old anvil, I really don't want to chance it. So for the couple of minutes that it takes to actually heat up your anvil, it's, you know, it's worth it. I will also do it when the plates get a little bit colder, so more of a black heat. I'll also heat up the faces of my hammers that I plan on using. And With these guys, with your hammers, you don't want to go on really hot steel because this is a little bit smaller. It can pull the temper out. But once it gets to that dull, really dull red, almost black heat, then it's okay. Now in my grinding room, it's actually on the second floor of my shop, so I'll actually get heat rising up in it. Also, it's probably the most insulated room in my shop. The ceiling is still not insulated, but the walls are. So it doesn't get too bad up here. Now, if I am gonna be up here a lot and I haven't heated up the space yet, so first thing in the morning probably, what I'll do is I'll take my little propane heater here. It's just a heater that goes on top of, your barbecue tanks. I usually use a 30-pound tank. Just have that set up, and it's quite nice having it hit you probably about 5-6 feet away. I usually use it on a low temp than actually high, but yeah, just a little heater like this. Now obviously burning propane inside a building is not ideal, and if you do have a sealed building, you should have a carbon monoxide detector on it, like around you. My shop is so drafty, I'm not too worried about it, but I do have a carbon monoxide detector anyways. So yeah, a little propane heater. It's quite nice in the grinding room, especially when you're doing the wire wheel and that air is blowing. It's a little bit nice to actually have a little bit of heat going on you. So yeah, that's what I use. Also, I like having this heater because I can just pick it up and move it around the shop. And we're gonna go back downstairs and talk a little bit more about that. If I plan on using my press, I will also heat it up with that little propane heater you saw. I'll just sit it in front. The reason why I do that is because of the oil. As it gets cold, it gets thicker, and it makes the pump work harder, the motor work harder, and it's just to take that half hour to an hour to heat it up and get that oil a little bit, more liquid, kind of like not as thick. It's well worth it. I will also dyes. I will also either place them on top of my forge for a little bit to warm them up before putting them in, or I will have them sitting down below where the heater's blowing on them. So that's the press. I'm not using it today, so I'm not worried about heating it. Also, if I've already forged, like say the whole morning, and then I'm gonna be like at the anvil and then use the press in the afternoon, I actually will just let the press heat up with the temperature that's in the shop. Also, other tools that I'll heat up, whoop, camera's caught, sorry. Other tools I'll heat up, my CNC right over there. Also, my air compressor way back there. Air compressor is the same thing. It's the oil that's in there. I'll just heat that up a little bit. Usually just put the propane heater in front. Let that heat up before I start it up. Again, it's just because the oil's thicker when it's cold, and I don't want to ruin my equipment. With the CNC, I have found that if I don't heat it up, it does weird things where one side of the gantry will just stop and like get stuck. So I try to heat that up now before I actually cut. And another tool that I definitely heat up before I use is this little guy. This is my hole punch. He's hydraulic driven, and yeah, it does not like running when the oil's thicker. Yeah, you can run thinner hydraulic oil, and I probably will do that with this guy. He's really sluggish when it's cold like this, so I will actually leave anything I need to punch more into the later of the day when my shop is actually already warm. That has helped, but also just taking that propane heater, kind of aiming it close to it, makes a huge difference. But this guy definitely needs to get heated up before I use him. in this cold weather. Well, that's how I deal with the cold in my shop. I hope you guys learned something. You know, if you like this video, you want to see more like this, where I'm telling you my experiences, hit the like, put a comment. If you haven't subscribed yet, and I know a lot of you haven't, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.